Welcome back, children. So hope you have completed Doppler's effect from the previous topic. See, we were studying about wave optics. I told you about Young's double slit experiment. We have studied about interference of light, and then even Doppler's effect we have discussed in the previous class. So coming to today's class, we are going to study about one more phenomenon which can be explained by wave nature of light, and that is called diffraction. Let us first try to understand, what is the meaning of diffraction, and then we will study about the various types of diffraction. The meaning of diffraction of light is bending of light around an obstacle. I repeat, the bending of light around an obstacle. Whenever it is passing through an obstacle, instead of traveling in a straight line, if light bends across the obstacle, we call this bending of light around the obstacle and entering into geometrical shadow region. This is defined as diffraction. It is supposed to travel straight. Say for example, if you allow the light to pass through a thin slit. But remember, in case of light, if you want to observe this diffraction phenomenon, size of the slit should be very, very small, comparable with the wavelength of the light. In case of sound, it is not necessary. See, when you keep the door of a room open, you can listen to whatever is, listen to the sounds inside the room. Because sound bends across the edges of the door and then enters outside. That is diffraction of sound. Diffraction of sound is easily audible because speed of sound is much lesser than the speed of light. So even for a door you can observe this diffraction effects. But if you want to observe diffraction in case of light, what should be the size of the slit? Extremely small. In the order of the wavelength of the light. So if the size of the slit is extremely small and you have kept the screen far away from it, if this is your source, we expect light to travel through the slit and only this central portion has to illuminate in the form of straight line. But in fact, this light is going to bend around the obstacle and it will enter this region. Here also, along this edge it is going to bend and it will enter this region. Even this region will be glowing. Central spot will be bright, but a part of the light will encroach into this region. And in this region also you will observe dark and bright bands. Not uniformly distributed like interference, but you observe dark and bright fringes. So this bending of light around an obstacle, if the size of the obstacle is much smaller or comparable with the wavelength of light, and entering into this geometrical shadow region. See, this region is supposed to be a shadow or a dark region, but light is entering into this region. What do you call this phenomenon as? Diffraction. So how do we define diffraction? Encroachment of light into geometrical shadow region due to bending across the edges of an obstacle, or bending of light ray around an obstacle and entering into the geometrical shadow region is nothing but called as diffraction. So diffraction is a common phenomenon. You see it in sound also, and we also see it in light. But what is the limitation? What should be the size of the slit to observe the diffraction? Very, very small, extreme small slits. So one practical example of diffraction is the silver lining of the mountains during sunrise. So when sun is about to rise, if these are the mountains, when sun is just behind the mountain, we know the sun rays will bend and come across these edges or obstacles. And this will make the edge of the mountain glow. This is called the silver lining of the mountains. Sun is at infinite distance. So compared to that distance, the size of the mountain is very small. Rays will bend across the obstacle and then enter into the shadow region. This is one simple example of. Now that you understood what is the meaning of diffraction, it is the bending of light around an obstacle. Look at the two types of diffraction. Okay, types of diffraction. We have two types of diffraction studied by different scientists under different experimental conditions. The first type is called as Fresnel's diffraction. Okay, and the second one was studied by a scientist called Fraunhofer. Okay, we call this as Fraunhofer diffraction. Okay, one is Fresnel's diffraction, other one is Fraunhofer. Okay, look at the difference between them. It is only in the experimental arrangements they differ. Both of them are bending of light rays itself, but one has studied under one conditions, Fraunhofer has studied under another conditions. In case of Fresnel's diffraction, source, slit and the screen are at finite distance. That means if this is your slit, source is at finite distance from the slit and the screen is also at finite distance from the slit. This distance is also finite, this is also finite. Since your source is at finite distance from the slit, if you take a point source of light, you get a spherical wavefront. Okay, what can be the nature of wavefront here? Wavefront can be spherical for a point source or cylindrical if it is a cylindrical source. And we don't have to use any lenses to converge them because all of them are at finite distance. You can observe the diffraction pattern on the screen. So this is for which type of diffraction? Fresnel's diffraction. I repeat, in Fresnel's diffraction, your source and screen are at finite distance from the slit. So slit to source and slit to screen are at finite distance. Since they are at finite distance, what type of wavefront is incident? If you take a point source of light, wavefront would be spherical, and if you take a cylindrical source of light, wavefront would be cylindrical. So this diffraction we call it as Fresnel's diffraction. Come to Fraunhofer diffraction. In Fraunhofer diffraction, source and screen, this is your source, and somewhere here you have a screen, are at infinite distance from the slit. So here all the distances are finite, but here all the distances are infinite. See, from source to slit, it is at infinite distance. Say if the source is at infinity, what type of rays come from infinity? A parallel beam. Then your incident wavefront will be a plane wavefront. Okay, what type of wavefront has to be incident on the slit? It should be a plane wavefront. Since your screen is also at infinite distance, we need to make use of lenses to converge and observe the diffraction pattern. Here no lenses are required, but here we need some lenses. So what is the difference between Fresnel's and Fraunhofer diffraction? Fresnel has studied under these experimental conditions and Fraunhofer has studied the diffraction under these experimental conditions. So in Fraunhofer, source and screen are at infinite distance from the slit. Incident wavefront is a plane wavefront. Lenses have to be used to observe the diffraction pattern. But anyway, in your syllabus, we are only going to study about the Fraunhofer diffraction. Okay, single slit experiment is an example for studying the Fraunhofer's diffraction. Okay, let's look into the single slit experiment. Okay, now let us study about the single slit Fraunhofer diffraction. Okay, so look at the experimental arrangement first. Okay, then we will explain why are we getting alternate dark and bright bands even in diffraction pattern. Okay, to understand that, let us assume we are taking a point source of light. This source of light is placed at the focus of a converging lens L1 so that this beam becomes parallel. Okay, now I am going to allow it to pass through a slit. Okay, here I am showing you a very large size slit, but actually I told you that the size of the slit should be comparable with the wavelength. So let this be a single slit whose width is equal to d. So what type of wavefront is falling on the slit because the beam of light is parallel, incident wavefront is a plane wavefront. Now keep a screen here at a distance capital D from the slit. Okay, now here I will use a converging lens. This beam of light, if it travels straight without any bending, it would converge at a point P on the screen. So this is the point P where you get maximum intensity, and that is called as central maximum. Okay, if light travels without bending across the obstacle, it will lead to the formation of central maximum. But this plane wavefront, if it hits this edge of the slit at A, it is going to bend. Okay, I repeat, diffraction is bending of the wavefront. So if this plane wavefront AB, okay, I will call this as AB, is hitting the obstacle or hitting the screen or the slit at the point A, then it is going to bend through a certain angle. So I will show this as AC. Drop a perpendicular. AC is your bent wavefront. To what angle did it bend? Theta. Then this beam of light would change its direction coming from AC, and all these rays would go and converge at a different point. Let this point be P dash. Okay, I'll call this as O central, and I'll name this point as equal to P. See, if it is bending through a small angle, it will come and converge at point P. If the angle of bending increases, it will go and converge at some other point which is above this point P. So this point P's intensity may be bright or dark. And on the screen, you are observing that if you move your telescope across the screen, even here we observe alternate dark and bright bands, but with variable intensities. Not like in case of interference, we get alternate dark and bright fringes. Here we are getting alternate dark and bright, but neither their intensity is same, nor the thickness is same. Central fringe is thick and bright. The next you are observing a dark region. The next fringe is little less bright. Thickness is also decreasing. So this type of pattern we observe on the screen. And this is called as the diffraction pattern. I again repeat the experimental arrangement. Okay, we are taking a point source of light. It is allowed to pass through a lens L1. Source is placed at the focus of L1 so that we get a parallel beam of light. If the rays are parallel, wavefront is a plane wavefront. That is the condition for a Fraunhofer diffraction. This plane wavefront passes through an obstacle or a slit whose width is equal to small d. Okay, the distance from A to B, I am taking it as small d. These rays are made to converge at a point P to get a central maximum. If the wavefront bends at the obstacle A, it will go and converge at some other point where you may observe dark or bright depending on the path difference. So on the screen you are observing alternate dark and bright bands similar to interference, but intensities are gradually decreasing, width is also gradually decreasing. This pattern we are calling it as diffraction pattern. Now using this single slit experimental arrangement, we are trying to explain why are we getting this alternate dark and bright bands on the screen. Okay, so let us see how did Fresnel gave his explanation for this alternate dark and bright regions. Now coming to the Fresnel's explanation for this diffraction pattern. Okay, just now I told you that in diffraction pattern you are observing alternate dark and bright fringes of varying intensity on the screen. Okay, when light is allowed to pass through a single slit. So this was properly explained by using Fresnel. So according to Fresnel, we observe this dark and bright bands because of the interference of Okay, we know we have studied interference. Whenever path difference is n lambda, it will lead to bright fringe. Odd multiple of lambda by 2, it will lead to dark fringe and so on. So, but here in single slit experiment, Fresnel explains that the diffraction pattern is because of interference of secondary wavelets or secondary wave fronts emerging from various parts of the slit. Okay, so you can understand here he is combining two concepts. One is interference, second is the Huygens principle. Okay, we know according to the Huygens principle, every point on primary wavefront behaves as a source for secondary wavefront. So why are we observing this diffraction pattern? It is because of the interference of secondary wavelets emerging from various parts of the slit. And Fresnel could properly explain it by dividing the slit. Okay, by dividing the slit into half period zones. That means in a path of lambda by 2, half period is half of a wavelength. So by dividing the slit into half period zone, he could explain why are we observing this alternate dark and bright regions. Okay, let us look into it. But remember this statement. Okay, how is diffraction explained by Fresnel? It is because of the interference of the secondary wavelets emerging from various parts of the slit. So let us look into the first case. Okay, to get the interference, first we need to calculate the path difference. So let us see what is the path difference between the wavefront AB and the wavefront AC. Okay, AB is a straight wavefront which is approaching without bending, and AC is the wavefront which is bent through an angle theta. So I want the path difference between AB and AC. Okay, to get the path difference, draw a perpendicular. Okay, AB is the plane wavefront. Okay, this is a wavefront which is bent through an angle theta. So is BC giving me the additional path travelled by the bent wavefront? If this distance is d, the distance between the slits is d. So first I am calculating the path difference. Tell me what is path difference between the first and the bent wavefront? Path difference is BC. See, from this triangle, okay, from this triangle I can get d sine theta. Or what is sine theta equal to? Sine theta is equal to BC by d. Or what is path difference BC equal to? Okay, we are getting the path difference as d sine theta. I again repeat, AB is the plane wavefront which is travelling without bending. AC is the wavefront which is bending through an angle theta and meeting at the point P. So first I am calculating the path difference between the plane wavefront AB and the bent wavefront AC. Since it is bending, I want the distance BC. BC gives you the path difference. So from this triangle, we have calculated the path difference as d sine theta. And once you know the path difference, let us start with the case 1. Let me see what would happen if this path difference is n lambda. Whether it is leading to constructive or destructive interference. Okay, so in interference, path difference is equal to n lambda was the condition for bright fringes. Let us see by trial and error method what would happen if d sine theta is n lambda. Put n equal to 1. What will this BC or d sine theta become? D sine theta 1 I will call it, should be equal to lambda. Now I will make this diagram again. This is AB, the plane wavefront. AC is the bent wavefront. Drop a perpendicular. We have got this distance as lambda. Okay, if BC is equal to lambda. Now I will be dividing this slit into half period zones. If you know the distance BC, I want to divide the slit into lambda by 2 zones. If this distance is lambda, go along BC, parallel to BC, until you reach a line where the distance becomes lambda by 2. Okay, I told you it is explained by division of slits. If BC is equal to lambda, go upward towards A until you get this distance as equal to lambda by 2. So if you divide the slit into two portions, this is a lambda by 2 portion, this is another lambda by 2. Okay, to explain diffraction, slit should be divided into half period zones, that is lambda by 2 part differences. So I have divided the slit into how many parts here? 2 parts. So for every point in the upper part of the slit, there exists a corresponding point in the lower part of the slit. See, for this point, this is the corresponding point. What is the part difference between these 2 points? So here it is starting with 0. Here the part difference is lambda by 2. Are these 2 points differing by a part difference of lambda by 2? So if this is a crest, this should be a trough. Okay, lambda by 2 is 180 degree phase angle. Phase angle becomes 180 degree. Part difference is lambda by 2, phase difference will be 180. So if O starts with a crest, this point wave will begin with a trough. Similarly, if I select the midpoint of the upper part of the slit, the midpoint of the lower part of the slit again differ by 180 degree. This point and this point also differ by 180 degree. So for every point in the upper part of the slit, there exists a point in the lower part of the slit which differs by 180 degree in phase or lambda by 2 in path. We know if two waves differing by 180 degrees are superimposed on each other, does it lead to constructive or destructive interference? When a crest falls on a trough, it leads to destructive interference. So if d sin theta is equal to 1 lambda, it is giving you a destructive interference. So if the part difference between the two interfering, that means primary and the secondary wavelengths, is 1 wavelength, that will give you destructive interference. Let us check with n equal to 2. If I take n equal to 2, what will the part difference BC become? D sin theta 2 will be equal to 2 times of lambda. Okay, now I will make this triangle again. Okay, here. This is AB. It is bent through an angle theta 2 more than the previous, such that B to C distance is not lambda, it is 2 lambda. See, this distance is 2 lambda. How many half period zones you can divide it into? Okay, you get 4 half period zones. So divide the slit into 4 parts now. Because we have to divide the slit only into half period zones. That means lambda by 2 portions. How many lambda by 2s are there in 2 lambda? 4 lambda by 2. So I have divided the slit into 4 parts. So for every point in the first one, there exists a point in the second one which differs by 180 degree. So if this is crest, this will be trough. If this is crest, this will be trough. Now tell me what type of interference takes place between the first part and the second part of the slits? Destructive. Third and fourth will also undergo destructive. So even if you divide the slit into 4 equal parts, 4 lambda by 2 zones, are we getting constructive or destructive interference? It is leading to destructive interference. So now trial and error method. For n equal to 1 also we got destructive. For n equal to 2 also we have got destructive. So what is d sin theta equal to n lambda giving me? The condition for destructive interference, and destructive interference leads to minimum. Okay, see in this graph you observe this is a minimum. Here also intensity is minimum. Here also intensity is minimum. So what is the condition to get the minimum intensity? The part difference between the secondary wavelengths should be integral multiple of lambda. It is exactly opposite to what we have seen in interference. So there if part difference is n lambda, that was leading to constructive interference. But here it is leading to what kind of diffraction, what kind of condition? Destructive, and this is the condition to obtain diffraction minima. Okay, these points are called as diffraction minimas, where intensity is low. So this is one part of the explanation why we are getting dark regions in diffraction pattern. Now let us see why are we getting these bright regions in diffraction pattern, that too with varying intensities. Okay, for that we'll go for case 2. Look at case 2. Okay, if part difference BC is equal to d sine theta is equal to 2n plus 1 lambda by 2. Okay, what if they are taking it as 2n plus 1 lambda by 2 because n starts from 0. Okay, 0 leads to central maxima. So for n equal to 0, what is d sine theta equal to? This is A, B, I'll call this as theta 3. You will get lambda by 2. Okay, d sine theta 3 will be, if I put n equal to 0, I will get it as lambda by 2. See, already BC distance is lambda by 2. You don't have to further divide the slit. Say this distance becomes anything greater than lambda by 2. Fresnel has explained it by division of the slit into half period zones. Now no division is possible since there is no interference taking place. The whole slit is contributing to the intensity. If light comes from the whole slit without any destructive interference, what is the nature of intensity? Intensity would become brunt. Now let us go for n equal to 1. If n becomes 1, what will d sine theta become? D sine theta 4 I'll call it. Should be. In the place of n, put it as 1, 3 lambda by 2. So the wave front is bending by an angle theta 3, theta 4. This is D, AB and AC. What is this distance becoming? 3 lambda by 2. Now if it is 3 lambda by 2, how many half period zones you can divide it? 3 halves. So divide the slit into 3 parts. First and second part differ by 180 degrees. So if this is crest, this will be trough. Again you will get a crest. Now see, the first 2 parts of the slit, are they undergoing constructive or destructive interference? Destructive. So we get the light only from 1/3 of the slit, that means only this part of the slit. So if your intensity is coming only from 1/3 of the slit, because when you divided the slit into 3 lambda by 2 zones, first 2 zones are undergoing destructive interference. We are getting light only from the remaining part. So if light comes only from the remaining part, will the intensity be high or less? It becomes less. And when you divide the slit into 5 parts, 4 will undergo destructive, we get intensity only from 1/5, then 1/7, 1/9. Tell me what is happening as you are going for higher and higher order fringes. Intensity is becoming lesser and lesser. So therefore, now I will mark the values here. Central fringe is bright. This is first minimum, then first maximum, second minimum, second maximum, third minimum, third maxima, and so on. So what is the generalized condition for the constructive interference or for maximas? If d sine theta is 2n plus 1 lambda by 2, this is leading to maxima in diffraction pattern. So the condition for minimum, d sine theta should be equal to n lambda, whereas if d sine theta is equal to 2n plus 1 lambda by 2, that will lead to the diffraction maxima. So this is how, by division of slit into half period zones or into lambda by 2 parts, we can explain why intensity is gradually decreasing for higher and higher order fringes. And now if you observe the variation of intensity with part difference, okay, let's look into the graph. Look at this graph. This is 0, part difference lambda, 2 lambda and 3 lambda. Other side, minus lambda, 2 lambda and 3 lambda. Okay, at lambda we are getting, when part difference has become lambda, 2 lambda and 3 lambda, we have seen that we are getting diffraction minimum. So how do we show the pattern? This is how the diffraction pattern looks like. Look at the intensities, they are gradually decreasing. Becomes lesser and lesser. So this is called central maximum. called first minima. We call this as first maxima. Okay, when are you getting first maxima? When part difference is 3 lambda by 2. Then this will be 5 lambda by 2. 7 lambda by 2. So this is called second maxima. Next, third maxima. And so on. Similarly on the other side. Okay, what is this dark region called as? This is called first minima. This is second minima. Third minima. And so on. And these peaks are called first maxima, second maxima, and so on. So remember this condition. Okay, what is the condition for minima, diffraction minima? If d sin theta is n lambda, this will lead to diffraction minima. Okay, n starts from 1, 2, 3 and so on. Okay, there is no 0 at minima, it starts from 1. And if d sin theta is 2n plus 1 lambda by 2, this is the condition for diffraction maxima. See, you are clearly observing the difference between interference and diffraction. Okay, what are the 2 points that you can say regarding the difference between interference and diffraction? Interference is by superimposition of waves coming from 2 different sources. That means S1 and 2 different coherent sources. But here diffraction is due to interference between the secondary wavelets coming from the same source, from the same slit, but from various parts of the slit. Here intensity is not uniform in diffraction, whereas intensity is uniformly distributed in case of interference. Okay, if I show you the graph of interference, okay, how intensity varies with part difference. In case of interference, this is your graph. I versus part difference graph. All the fringes were of same width and same intensity on either sides. This is central fringe, first dark fringe. This is first bright. Okay, this is called the central. First bright, second bright. When do you get the first bright fringe? When part difference is lambda. Second bright for 2 lambda. This is lambda. 2 lambda. And in between the bright fringes, for lambda by 2 you will get dark. 3 lambda by 2 it was dark. Here also lambda by 2 dark. 3 lambda by 2 was dark. Again 5 lambda by 2 is dark. But look at this. The condition for minima here is the condition for maxima in case of interference. So both of them are different from each other. So whatever conditions we have got for interference, it is exactly reverse in case of diffraction. Here intensity is uniform for all the slits if the 2 slits are of same width. But here intensity is gradually decreasing. So in the next class I will tell you how to find out the formula for intensity of diffraction pattern. For this we already know. If the 2 slits are of same width, maxima and minimum intensity. Okay, what is the formula for maximum intensity? Root I1 plus root I2 whole square. If I1 and I2 are same, then you will get it as 4 I0. Then minimum will be 0. But here remember, minima also will have some brightness. Okay, minima is not perfectly having 0 intensity in diffraction pattern. So this is how interference and diffraction differ from each other. And you need to remember these 2 graphs for subjective exams. Okay, they may ask you plot intensity versus part difference or phase difference graph for diffraction and interference pattern. So this is all about the single slit diffraction.